Hi, this is Mark Talbert, and I've put together this YouTube video clip of slides for a presentation I did for a local PMI chapter meeting, the Washington, D.C. chapter meeting back on January 17th in 2012 for the PM Tools meeting. And when I first mentioned to my wife what I was speaking about at this meeting, I'm speaking, hun, about Agile project management and how it fits into the PMBOK guide or not. She looked at me like I was a little bit crazy, and I could tell her thoughts, even though she was nice enough not to say so. I could tell her thoughts of, oh my God, that sounds so dreadfully boring. But I think to project managers today, especially PMPs, and a lot of you, what do we have? Almost 500,000 PMPs worldwide today, and a huge percentage of you are software project managers. I think this is of a lot of import today. I think this is something that a lot of us have been thinking about. Wow, I went through all this training, learning about the PMBOK guide to get ready for the PMP, all these formal processes, and I'm really kind of going another different way, it seems like, using Agile and Agile methodologies. So where does this really fit with what PMI is preaching in the PMBOK guide? So that's the purpose of my presentation today, what I would like to explore. Does Agile really dovetail and fit in with the model described by PMI and the PMBOK guide, or is it revolutionary and is it really going a whole new different direction? So I think we're at a very interesting crossroads right now. We have these two dominant schools of thought about how best to approach projects today. So the traditional project management approach, probably best represented by PMI's PMBOK guide. Do I develop projects using a lot of formal processes and a lot of in-depth planning up front? Do I address all 42 processes, all 5 process groups, the 9 knowledge areas? Do I build this very in-depth project management plan with all of its subsidiary plans and 3 baselines? Do I use formal change control and configuration management? To what level of detail and formality do I go to doing project management, especially up front in my planning processes and steps up front? Or do I move more to this new approach, best represented by the many specific approaches defined in the Agile umbrella of project management methodologies? This was first introduced and targeting software projects where we knew there was going to be a lot of change and malleability in the requirements. And Agile was a perfect approach for dealing with all this change by using prototypes and doing things in a much more iterative way. We'll allow the requirements to emerge. We'll pull these requirements as we go through the project. We won't define things. We won't worry about defining things in much detail up front. So project managers are given these choices. What do we really go with? Jim Highsmith, in his excellent book on Agile project management, points out that even though Agile was first set up to target software projects, that people are finding that it's actually a very good fit for many other product areas and many other applications today. And in part, that's because so many products today do include a very large percentage of software. And he gives cell phones as an example, and he mentions that just 5, 6, 7 years ago, a cell phone included very little code involved in its operations. But today's cell phones, our smartphones today, our Androids and iPhones and other smartphones that we're using today with all their apps, there's a tremendous amount of software. There's hundreds of thousands of lines of code involved in the operation of these smartphones today. So anything with that much software, Agile is a great fit for it. And he goes even further and he points out that even in new construction, new product development, engineering, where we're designing, what seems to be hardware products, because of 3D modeling and CAD, computer-aided design techniques on computers today, in effect, we can do prototypes. Therefore, Agile is even a great fit there. So we've got these two approaches. Which way is the right way to go? Or do I go with some hybrid form, try to mix in, if one really supports the other, can I mix them in and use them in kind of a hybrid fashion? And PMI is addressing that point. In their latest magazine, their monthly magazine that they release each month, the PM Network magazine, it does talk directly about this topic. It mentions using Agile, the huge growth in Agile, and also talks about people using Agile in really a hybrid method too. They interviewed a large number, over 4,000, I think it's over 4,700 project managers dealing with software projects, and they ended up finding out that over 90% of these project managers for software projects said that they were using some form of Agile, one of the different forms of Agile that we'll mention here in a second. They were doing that. And its growth seems to be accelerating, that just in the last few years, since December of 2008 until May of 2011, the use of Agile has tripled. And also beyond that, in Gartner Group studies and other surveys that have been done, most of these project managers that have switched to using Agile for software projects in particular report having a much higher degree of success with this than their old traditional approach. Project managers have actually probably been using iterative prototyping, agile type methods for a long time. It's not anything really that brand new, but we probably can mark its recognition as agile with the release of the Agile Manifesto back in the spring of 2001. So we just passed the 10-year anniversary, and the Agile Manifesto reads as such: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So as we mentioned before, Agile project management really includes a number of other more specific approaches, and these include all the ones listed on the slide here. So Scrum, XP or Extreme Programming, Lean, Crystal, DSDM or Dynamic Systems Development Method, or FDD, Feature Driven Development. Probably of all these, Scrum is the most widely used, is the most popular. They are all adopting a much more iterative approach to doing projects, or prototyping approach. So our key question is Agile compatible with project management as defined by PMI, as defined in the PMBOK guide? And when you start reading books by the authors of Agile methodology, most of them emphatically say no, that really what they're describing is a total different revolutionary approach from what is defined in the PMBOK guide, or in traditional project management, as they would say. Doug DeCarlo, in Extreme Project Management, the metaphors, some of the analogies that he uses very well. He says, if traditional project management is classical music, then Agile is jazz and improvisation. If traditional project management is classical Newtonian physics, then Agile project management is really all about quantum mechanics and Heisenberg's principle of indeterminacy, so chaos, change. He cites a quote from a PMP who was managing pension implementation projects, and this PMP said, I always believe that the project management profession is doing itself a disservice if it doesn't recognize that many, if not most, projects don't follow the guidelines set forth by PMI's PMBOK guide. Other references that we're using in putting together this paper are Jim Highsmith's excellent book on Agile Project Management, Creating Innovative Products, and Ken Schwaber's book, Agile Project Management with Scrum. So Ken Schwaber was one of the original signers of the Agile Manifesto in 2001. Of course, PMI's view is totally different. In their view, they would say, yes, Agile project management is completely compatible with project management as defined in the PMBOK guide, and in fact, they've just released a new certification for Agile this fall, so they started testing on it, the PMI-ACP, Agile Certification Professional, and they definitely believe that these methodologies, this approach, does fit in with the PMBOK guide model. They would remind us very clearly that the PMBOK guide has never intended to be a menu of how to do projects. It's a much higher level framework. It's a culmination, it's the distillation of all the best practices that are used for project management across all industries, no matter how simple or how complex. That's why it's so written at this such a generalized, abstract, often pretty cryptic manner, and they would say that within this high-level framework there are many other more specific approaches and methodologies that can be used at any specific time. So directly from PMI.org, so on their frequently asked question page about this new certification, they do say, the PMBOK Guide 4th edition contains principles of project management and project management processes. These processes describe what should be done during the management of a project. Agile methodologies are different, and they describe how to do the things that should be done. So in short, what versus how.